Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. M. Angel, Assistant Professor, PG in Research Department of Home Science at Emma College, Madurai. I'm here to present a topic on digestive system, which is connected with the human physiology. Human physiology is nothing but it deals with the physiology and anatomy, that is, the parts, organs, and their functions of the entire human body. When we see about this digestive system, it is dealing with the process of digestion. Digestion breaks complex foods into absorbable forms. Absorption, these transforms the products into the bloodstream, and from there, two chief functions are followed. The complex molecules are broken down into simpler substances, and it is easy for assimilation and absorption process. So when we see about the two parallel process, one is mechanical digestion, that is larger pieces are broken into smaller pieces. It begins in the mouth and continues in the stomach. Next one is the chemical digestion. Here, the enzymes are breaking up the macromolecules and they are making up them into an absorbable molecule. It starts in the stomach and continues in the intestine. Now let's see the anatomy of the alimentary canal. Alimentary canal starts from the mouth, that is the buccal cavity, and it extends through the esophagus. Esophagus is nothing but the food pipe where the food travels from the mouth to the stomach, and it reaches the next point is the stomach. And from there, it extends to the small intestine and then large intestine, and it goes to the end with the rectum and anal canal. Now we'll see about the layers of the gastrointestinal tract. The gastrointestinal tract has three types of layers called mucosa, submucosa, and muscularis. And also the last one, which is the fourth one, is called as a serosa layer. The mucosa layer, it is an absorptive and secretive layer with this, which is surrounded with this epithelium and connective tissue, goblet cells, villi, and microvilli. Next, while seeing the submucosa, they are thick vascular layer of blood vessels, the glands, and the nerve plexus, which picks up and absorb the elements. Next one is the muscularis. It is inner circular and outer longitudinal smooth muscles. They have segmental contractions and they are helpful for the peristalsis, that is the movement in the stomach. Next one is the serosa layer. It is a protective outer layer which protects the GI tract from the external damages. And also it is made up of connective tissue and squamous epithelium that will secrete the serous fluid. Okay, so here this mouth has teeth and saliva, which plays a major role in the digestion process. Teeth is helpful for mastication, and saliva will mix the masticated food into a bolus and it will send. Next one is the stomach. It has a structure like bag. Okay, it is an elastic in nature, and also it is a bag-like structure. It has different secretions to digest the food material. The regions of the stomach are cardiac region, fundus, body, pylorus. And the cardiac region and the pylorus are guarded by a sphincter called as cardiac sphincter and pyloric sphincter, respectively, which will be opening and closing according to the situation. Next one is the gastric juice. We have highly acidic gastric juice, that is parietal cells that secrete the hydrochloric acid, chief cells secrete pepsinogen, and goblet cells secrete the mucus, G cells secrete the gastrin. Next one is the function. When we see about the function, pepsin digests proteins, renin will act upon the milk protein, the acids and kill bacteria and then converts the pepsinogen into active pepsin. Next one is the small intestine. The role of small intestine in the process of digestion and absorption is tremendous, where the small intestine is divided into three parts, that is duodenum, ileum, jejunum, and ileum. This duodenum will receive the pancreatic enzymes and also the succus entericus is there. Jejunum is a major site of absorption where the villi and the microvilli makes more effective for absorption. Next one is ileum. Their continuous absorption, the B12 and bile salts are playing the role. Next one is, when we see about the intestine, it is 600 centimeter. That is, duodenum is 25 to 30 centimeter. When we see about the enzymes called as pancreatic enzymes, the pancreatic amylase and also pancreatic lipase plays a major role. And trypsin and chymotrypsin, these are activated by the enzyme called enterokinase. Next one is the bile, which is secreted by the liver. It emulsifies the fats and it is stored this bile is stored in the gallbladder. Next one is the succus entericus. This will supply the enzymes called lactase, maltase, sucrase, which on hydrolysis, which will hydrolyze the lactose molecules, maltose molecules, and sucrose molecules respectively to produce the final product, glucose. Next one is the digestion of carbohydrates gives the final molecule as a glucose, and the proteins will be converted to amino acids at the end and fats into fatty acids and glycerol. Here, when we see about the absorption and transport, villi plays a major role. Villi, which is present in the small intestine, it plays a major role in, that is 90% of the absorption takes place in the small intestine through the villi. The villi has the brush borders, which has capillaries and the lacteals. Here, these plays a major role in the digestion of the food materials. The monosaccharides and amino acids are converted and they are entering into the hepatic circulation, and fats are also digested. Next one is the stomach and large intestine. So it will absorb 10% of water, alcohol, and salts. Excessive glucose is stored as glycogen in liver, and later on, when there is a need for energy, this glycogen is converted into glucose and it provides energy to the body. Next one is the large intestine. The large intestine is 150 centimeters. That is, when we see about the sections, cecum, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, and sigmoid colon. Here, it absorbs water, salts, and covers the bacteria, and also synthesizes vitamin K and folic acid. So after all the absorption, and it moves the waste, it passes out the waste materials which are available for the defecation purpose. So there is a mass movement where the waste materials after the digestion process are pushed as fecus into the rectum, and the nerve endings of the rectum will trigger the evacuation through the anus, and the fecal matter pass through the anus from our body. So here, when we see about the gastrointestinal movements, there are three types of movements, which is pendular movement, and here mixing action takes place. Next one is segmenting. That is, it is happening through the circular muscle. And next one is peristaltic movement, that is called as a propulsion movement. Through these movements, the gastrointestinal movement take place and the food is digested in different forms and it is moving into the process called absorption and finally for digestion. Okay. So here in the buccal cavity, the food is chewed and masticated and mixed with the saliva and it forms a bolus, thereby it enters into the gastrointestinal tract of the human being where it is digested and it is made in the form of a milky fluid called chyme and it will make the molecules which are available in the chyme. The complex materials are broken down into simpler substance and that process is called digestion and from that the materials are mixed into a chyme so that all the enzymes which are responsible for the digestion process will involve and it will invade the materials and it will form the simpler substances of digestion. And almost it is absorbed and the excess amount of the nutrients are stored. And whenever there is a need for energy, this glycogen is converted to glucose and gives energy. Here, the accessory organs of the digestive system are liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. The liver will produce bile, which will remove the toxin and it will store the glycogen that is consumed as excess amount of glucose and it is stored as glycogen in the liver and it is converted again whenever there is a need. And when we see about the vitamins, vitamins are also stored there and the liver manufactures the plasma proteins and heparin and forms the antibodies. Next one is a gallbladder. Gallbladder stores and concentrates the bile and releases into the duodenum and it will aid for the digestion of fats. So these fats are stored as fatty acids and glycerol and they are mainly stored in the adipose tissue of the liver. Next one is the pancreas. It is an exocrine organ. So pancreatic juice with amylase, trypsin, lipase, and bicarbonate are there. And there are another type of cells called as endocrine hormones. That is alpha cell secrete glucagon and beta cell secrete insulin. So if the pancreas has a leaf-like structure called it is a leaf-like structure called the islets of the Langerhans, which will secrete the insulin and glucagon. So beta cells secrete insulin. These two hormones are mainly regulated with the blood glucose. When we see about these hormones, insulin will lower the blood glucose level and glucagon will regulate the blood glucose level. This is the role of the hormones and this is the role of each organ in the part of digestion. And thank you for listening.